Good morning. It's Mark with Onyx Training Group. Hey, just want to talk to you today real quick about a couple things that I've been thinking about, and I kind of want to put out there. And it's a reminder, and it's just kind of a thing for law enforcement, special weapons and tactics teams, and operators to just kind of remember. And I see a lot of the trainers out there now. Putting stuff out. You got a lot of special forces people who are coming out of the military, and they're putting together some really fantastic training on CQB stuff. Movement, action, and there's some really great trainers out there. I've been looking at YouTube, Instagram, checking out their sites and doing different things. And it kind of goes back to my whole belief that the U.S. military, there's not another military that's going to come close, either on the line level, the infantry level, up to the special forces level. There's not going to be any military that's going to come close to the U.S. military. So you're seeing some great tactics being brought out to the civilian law enforcement community, and even to the civilian community. I see some of the CQB where it's like, hey, it's home defense situation, and you got to think about it. How are you checking your house for safety, right? Understand that there is some fantastic training out there. For civilian law enforcement, what I want to serve as a reminder to is that we need to remember to mate those good tactics with some very solid foundational principles and concepts. Don't get caught up, which I see some police officers doing and some SWAT operators doing when I teach classes, is they talk about CQB movement and more decisive room entries, and how teams are coming into the rooms, they're pairs or threes or fours, and how they're dominating, eliminating, and I'm like, that's great. That's the tactics are great, they're real solid, good weapons manipulation skills and everything. Also have to add into that our decision-making process, right? And that is when we're going to bring in the when and the why of using the CQB tactics, because I talk about it in my classes, is that we can't use CQB tactics in everything we do. And my analogy is, you can have a four-wheel drive truck, or a Jeep that's all kitted out for off-road, and it works fantastic, in the desert, in the mountains, whatever, but you're not going to win any F1 races with it. You're not going to win any races with it, really. Except a friend of mine has a 400 horsepower Jeep, but that's a whole nother story. So, likewise, you take an F1 car, you're going to have great success on the track, but you can't take it out into the mountains. You can't take it out into the desert. It won't do you any good. So we have to understand that we have to use the right tool for the job. Same with the tactic. Well, how do we know that? How do we learn that? How do we get to that point of using the correct tool or tactic for the job? We have to have that decision making, right? We have to have good, sound decision-making principles, okay? So that's going to help us to define the situation, to understand who and what we're dealing with. We're going to work on the priorities, right? Safety priorities, who's a priority in there. And then we're going to figure out what tools, tactics, and our training are going to do for us in that situation, okay? So, it goes back to my what I present as the Pi Plus theory, the Pi Plus principles of decision making. Our safety priorities, our facts and our intel, what are we dealing with? Our environment, where are we doing it? Like right now, I'm standing in a little bit of a snow flurry here in downtown Denver. So how's that going to affect us? And then the plus, our tools, tactics, and our training. What tools do we have to use? What tactics do we use, right? And are they going to help us out in this situation? We got to remember, we use CQB for a certain thing. It's more of a hunting method, a hunting mode, right? We're maybe an active shooter, a deliberate entry on a hostage rescue, civilians, clearing your house if you think somebody's in there, or if somebody's in there, how are you clearing that house? Those are the tactics we use for CQB in, or those are the situations we might use it in. We also have to remember there are other situations where CQB may not afford us the best advantage and the most success, right? If we're a tactical team looking for a barricaded or armed barricaded suspect, maybe hiding in a location, we want to be able to use some other tools in order to locate that suspect without necessarily having to confront them initially, right? And then use some other tools to help motivate them to surrender. If we're serving a warrant, we want to make sure that we are not too aggressive and too determined to dominate and eliminate, because what if we enter a room and we come across a child who's hiding or scared? Okay, we want to be able to give ourselves time to correctly process the information we need to process and not do something that we may regret for a long time to come. So, you know, it's that thing, a reminder I want to put out to, you know, all my civilian police officers, brothers and sisters in the special weapons community, to remember that we have these great tactics, and we also need to remember to combine them with good, solid foundational principles, so that we know when to use these tactics. Okay, so hey, just a few minutes. It's kind of chilly out here right now, so I'm gonna get out of the cold for a minute, but I just wanted to drop that to you guys out here. Just a reminder, you know, remember, Onyx Training Group, we're here for you. I've been involved in police training since the mid-90s. I believe in the special weapons community and civilian law enforcement. I believe in civilian law enforcement 100%, and want to do everything that I can do to support the mission of policing and support the mission of quality police officers. All right? So hey, this is Mark, Onyx Training Group. Talk to you later.